My next guest is no stranger to Radio 3ZZZ. When I first met her, which doesn't seem that long ago, she was a broadcaster on one of the youth programs here and a member of the board. This dynamic young woman has already crammed a lot of experience in the space of a few years and accomplished many things. Among them, she was named Young Victorian of the Year 2010. Her name is Wesa Chau, and she's about to tackle yet another challenge as a candidate in the coming federal election. But before we talk about that, Wesa, tell us a bit about your background and your journey so far.
Well, first of all, it's great to be back to 3ZZZ. I haven't been back for a few years now, but I started an organisation previously called the Australian Federation of International Students back in university days, and it was during that time I was in touch with 3ZZZ as well, working at 3ZZZ as a presenter on
Polyphonics?
Polyphonics a few times,
yeah.
But mainly on the Chinese show. And had a lot of experience doing that. So I was grateful for the experience that I got at 3ZZZ. And then after that, when I started working, I was working for an organisation called ADEC, which stands for Action on Disability Within Ethnic Communities. So it's an organisation basically to help people with disability from ethnic communities. And I did a lot of advocacy work for people with disability, and especially those from migrant background who may or may not have the language ability and not sure where to seek help, which is a problem for many people from migrant communities. And so I was awarded 2010 Young Victorian of the Year for the work that I've done in the community. And after that, well, now I started my own business doing cross-cultural training and consultancy, and I do a bit of research as well. So that's my background, and I'm now running for the seat of Higgins.
Now, what interested you? Have you always been interested in politics?
Well, not really, actually. I was not interested in politics at all when I was young. I started being a little bit more interested when I was an advocate for international students. So through that time, because I had I did a lot of work in helping international students, and so got to really understand the political process, and that's when I started to be interested in politics. But in terms of actually thinking about running, I wasn't really interested until this few years, really, because I saw, and this since about last year, or maybe a year before, probably about 2011, starting to do a lot more work around diversity and reading a lot of reports and everything, and really recognising that there's still a lack of women in Parliament.
So that's one of the challenges that you see. I was going to ask you what you see as the biggest challenge.
Yes.
for yourself and other women candidates.
Yeah, so that was one of the push for me, and of course being a person from migrant backgrounds as well, and there's not many women from migrant backgrounds in Parliament either. And I think in terms of decision making, I think decisions would be much better if we have more women and people from diverse backgrounds.
What sort of difference do you hope to make?
Well, for me, education is a interest of mine, and I'm really glad that we now have the better school reform, making sure that every child, regardless of your background, will get a good education. So that's a passion of mine, and also one of the areas that our community in Higgins especially would like to see is the funding for the rails from South Yarra to Kensington, to make sure that we've got good infrastructure. And making sure, that we've got the infrastructure that we need for the future. And of course, protecting the environment is also very important.
Yeah.
And especially for my generation, recognising that if we don't have an earth that is sustainable, everything else would be affected, including health, including food.
You would have been interested then to hear our previous guest talking about environment and life in Ethiopia. And the sorts of struggles they're having there.
Yes, well, that's right. I mean, if you don't have good climate, if you don't have environment that's sustainable, there will be drought, there will be flooding, and that would affect the food.
Apart from issues such as education, which you've just mentioned, what do you perceive as the issues facing the nation in the next decade, let's say?
Well, I think climate change is definitely one. As we've seen very extreme weathers that we've experienced in the last few years, I think that would be one of the biggest challenges, to balance out, to protecting the environment. And the other argument obviously is economy and jobs. So balancing out, how do we protect the environment but at the same time have a sustainable economy so that we can continue into the future.
As a migrant yourself, what you're thinking about the future of migration in Australia?
Well, in terms of migration, I'm definitely, for migration, and I suppose with the migration program, we've seen an increase in migration, which is a great thing for Australia. But I guess one of the challenges is how to actually help these migrants when they're here. That's one of my biggest concern, really, is making sure that they've got the employment opportunities, and making sure people who come here have the support that they need. And many of them, and I've been talking to quite a lot of migrants recently, especially those from Chinese background, and many of them really don't know where to seek help. And
the newer communities in particular.
Yes. And even just finding out what the council is and what services they provide. I mean, those type of support services that they need. And sometimes it's not even about support as in, they don't know what it they can't do something themselves. It's really someone to tell them information and point them to the direction that they need to go.
And of course, one of these support areas is a radio like this one.
Absolutely. And just pointing out, telling them that there is a station here, because many of them actually don't know.
That's right.
And many
so
of
we're
them...
counting on you to spread the word, Wesa.
Absolutely. No, I mean, 3ZZZ, it's a great service. I remember actually my first encounter of 3ZZZ was when I was still in primary school. I used to actually hide under the doona and listen to 3ZZZ because the Chinese program is quite late at night. It's 10 o'clock at night, so I'm supposed to be in bed. So I used to hide under the doona just to listen to 3ZZZ. So
and that would have been before the programs were available online.
That's right.
Yeah.
Many years back. But so even just to be able to hear your own language on the radio waves, it makes you feel like you're at home. And also you get the information, the local information. So it's not just the language, because obviously now with the internet you can access radio shows overseas.
Yes.
But it's having that local information about, that there is a Chinese festival next weekend or something.
Yeah.
That's the type of information a lot of migrants need.
Well, so I'm sure we could go on talking for a long time, but if we don't stop now, we'll run into the next hour, I'm afraid. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your views with us. And maybe there'll be another chance, I don't know.
Yep.
But all the best with your campaign.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Orietta.